Good afternoon and welcome to the April 3rd meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority. Mr. Kasakian, may we have a roll call, please?
Authority members Agajanian.
Present.
Garcia.
Here.
Garpetian.
Here.
Najarian.
Here.
Thank you. Parazian.
Here.
Sinanian.
Here.
Chair Devine.
Here. Next item, please.
Agenda for the April 3rd, 2018 regular meeting of the Glendale Housing Authority was posted on Friday, March 30th, 2018 on the bulletin board outside City Hall.
Thank you. And next?
It's the approval for the minutes of the regular Housing Authority meeting on March 27, 2018.
So moved.
Second.
And second, okay. Without any objections, the minutes will stand approved as submitted. Next item, please.
Next item is oral communication. There are 2 cards submitted. Discussion is limited to items not a part of this agenda. Each speaker is allowed 5 minutes. Members of the Housing Authority may question or respond to a speaker, but there will be no debate or decision. The matter may be referred to staff through the Executive Director for Investigation and Report.
Thank you. First speaker, Chinook Ramirez, please.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, very much. I appreciate it. Well, it looks like Los Angeles City is listening to Glendale, and they're also looking up to Glendale because it's clean, safe, and beautiful. They're putting out notices all over the trees in downtown Los Angeles. All over, and it says major sidewalks, alleys, parks, and other public access areas cleaning, which will involve disinfect the sidewalks, alleys, parks, and other public access areas. So again, Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles, who's known to be a pig, who has not taken pride in the city of Los Angeles, oink, oink, he is now owning up to the horrendous cesspool and filth of Los Angeles. So maybe this will be a wake-up call to Eric Garcetti and his cronies to pick up and clean up the trash in Los Angeles. Having said that, that's a good thing. We're making progress, ladies and gentlemen. I decided to leave the hotel where I was at. I had a few words with the Chinese hotel where I was staying. And keep in mind, it's not just the hotel, in this Chinese hotel, that people are able to access the door at entry, and without a card key. As you see in YouTube, anybody can access any hotel room. And I'm disappointed that even the Sheraton, the Crown Plaza, the Ramada, and all the Hiltons and all the Holiday Inns, no matter how much money you paid, $1,500 a week, which is the most I've ever spent on a week for a hotel, and they still got in. Oh my God. So having said that, I've had it. So I got pissed off, chewed out the Chinese the front desk person, chewed him out, called the police, and I took off. I said I had enough of this. This is America. Why should I be paying this kind of money and have these bastard gangbangers going into my room? I'm under surveillance in my own room. What is this? And yet people, they want you to think you're a nut. You're not a nut, ladies and gentlemen. Here I am in this hotel room. Every time I walk to the window, somebody up there who checks in walks to the window, drops an object, and stomps, letting me know I know where you're at. I go to the bathroom, the same scenario plays out. So again, these are stupid games that the gangbangers play, and no, I don't have any problems with my head. I'm intact from head to toe. So I took off and I went to camp out at La Placita, Olvera Street. So I am now on the street. I'm not paying rent, I'm not paying money to anybody. And yes, I shout out at everybody who gets in my face, whether they are gangbangers, and I get a lot of the criminals, elements who violate a lot of women out there. And I'm sorry to say this, a lot of good women, elderly and young, get beaten up every day. I have now seen it for a week by blacks and browns. Primarily, the biggest criminals are blacks and browns, and nobody wants to confront this issue. I'm going to call it what it is. I've even gotten to try to intervene some of these homeless problems between fights that were going on at night, 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning. I get up and I say, please, calm down. Let's talk about it. The cops are going to come. You don't want to go to jail tonight. Come on, mellow out. But most of them are on drugs. What do I know about drugs? I don't do drugs, I don't do drugs. I don't know how to I don't know how to talk to these people. All I know is that I hate living among the gangbangers, and I hate living among these drug addicts because all they have is their junk, their paraphernalia, their contraband, their underwears, their condoms, their filth. I come in with my Lysol, my bleach, all my paraphernalia for cleanliness. I like clean and environment. That's what I like. And everybody wants to camp out next to me because they see something clean. And I tell them to get the out. And that's what I do every single night. So I'm staying by the Olvera Street, the church, La Placita, and I'm asking people, Catholics, do not donate a single penny to the Catholic Church. They are permitting and allowing a lot of abuse, violence, and I hate and just vile filth all over the Catholic church area, front and back and inside and out. So again, we've been complaining about this at LA City, and now they're also cleaning up that area. But again, the church has not stopped the violence and abuse against women and not against the people who are homeless. So I'm asking, they're not providing blankets, toiletries, clothing, and men's jail and women's jail is right there, and they all come out in their fatigues and they don't have any extra clothes, and the church will not provide them with that. I do give them clothes, but whatever I have, I give, and I don't mind. I feel good. So that's what I do. I like to look clean, smell clean, and look pretty. That's what I like. I like to be clean, and even if I take showers all the way to Santa Monica Beach in cold water, I do it, because I'm not a pig. So I like to smell good, look clean, and disinfect myself. Not only myself, but my things. And I go to the laundromat 3 times a week and disinfect everything. So ladies and gentlemen, having said that, it's a mother being homeless. And with that,
Thank you,
God bless America.
thank you, Ms.
and
Ramirez.
Donald Trump.
Just one thing.
Yeah.
Most of what you're talking about is occurring in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And there's not much that we can do about that here.
Yeah.
This is Glendale. We are safe, we are clean, and we are doing as much as we can for our homeless.
Right.
So I hope you will keep that in mind the next time you come to speak.
Okay, the next
Thank
time
you.
I will keep that in mind, but
Thank
I
you.
will bring other
Thank you.
scenarios that involve
Thank you.
Glendale. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Wasana Hayes.
I'm here today to just inquire about a partnership that you guys had with the Onyx Glendale apartment building. There was a flyer that was sent out that said that applications for this apartment, there were 8 low-income apartments, and applications for these apartments would be accepted on the preference of people that live and work in Glendale. This was back in October. I called every month from that day to find out what the status was of that application process. We come to this month of March to find out that that criteria is no longer applicable, that now you have to live and work in Glendale, which I feel, as I stated to Mr. Zovak, Mr. Fortney, and Ms. Jackson, that the city knew that they would be inundated with applications for these 8 apartments. When I spoke to Onyx Apartments, they said that the criteria changed because they were overwhelmed with applications, and that is not something that's my issue. I mean, I'm kicked out of the application process because of a job issue, a work issue, and I just don't feel that's fair. The only thing I want to do is just address it and say that, or ask how can you guys change the criteria in the middle of the game? I mean, the same thing that the people of this community hope for is the same thing that I hope for. Under Mr. Zovak's picture, there's a vision statement that says that affordable housing is accomplished by developing, preserving, and administering affordable housing programs and projects for low-income households. It does not say low-income households only in the city of Glendale. And I feel like it's for you guys to change the criteria is almost discriminatory because it doesn't apply to anyone but the people of this community. And I think, we're all kind of aware of the number of, I'm sorry, I'm trying to say who's in this community. Let me just say that. We know who's in this community, so this excludes me. It excludes people like me almost, and other people that are not like me. I feel like I'm a hardworking citizen as well, so now I'm being forced to, and I know there's a lot of applications, and there's only 8 apartments, but it was hope that I had that maybe, just maybe, I would be chosen for one of these apartments, and now I'm forced to do something different, which is probably move further than I really want to be. And I work for the city of Glendale as well, in the city of Glendale, sorry, as well. So I should be afforded the same opportunity as the people of this community. So my only question is why? How? How can you change the criteria? Why would you change it? And I know you guys said because of the numbers, but again, that's not something that has to do with me as a low-income citizen of any community. It doesn't have anything to do with me. That's a job that they have to do, and it has nothing to do with kicking me out of the, it has nothing to do with me. So I don't know if you guys have answers for that right now, or if I should come to the next meeting and it'll be addressed then, but.
Can I ask you, you mentioned that you work here in Glendale. I'm
Yes.
assuming you do not live in Glendale?
I live in Altadena. I work in Glendale Adventist.
Okay.
And when this flyer was presented, it was something that I was hopeful for.
Mr. Zovac, if you're finished, we'll try to get some information for you. Thank you. Thank you.
Quick question.
Sure. Mr.
Have you filed
Mayor?
your application
I filed my application in October.
in October? Okay, thank you. We'll ask Mr. Zovak to.
Mr. Zovac, can you enlighten us a bit on this? Was there a change? We've always had live and work as first priority, haven't we?
Correct. I think it'd be best if we can have either Ms. Jackson or Mr. Fortney come and talk to you about answer your questions and talk to you about the Onyx application process.
Okay, fine. Mr. Fortney?
Good afternoon, Housing Authority Chair, Housing Authority Board members, Mike Fortney, Housing Project Manager for the City of Glendale. So to answer the question, the criteria didn't change. We do have a preference for live and work in Glendale. But we know we're going to get an overwhelming number of applications for these units. I mean, we know that. What we don't know is how many applications we're going to get that have both the live and a work preference versus just a live preference versus just a work preference. What we wound up getting was 7,600 roughly applications for these 8 units, of which approximately 2,500 received both preferences, live in Glendale and work in Glendale. We are only polling 250 applications from the lottery to fill those 8 units and to create a wait list for the project. Knowing we have 2,500 applicants that have both the live and work preference, we're not going to get to folks who only got one preference. We're only going to poll 250. Now, we could poll 250 and the applications, when we get much more in depth on the application, look much more into detail, some of those 250 are going to get tossed. They're not going to be income qualified like they stated. But it's highly unlikely that we're going to go through all 250 to fill the 8 units. And it's almost unimaginable that we'd go through 2,500 to fill the 8 units. So the criteria didn't change. The only thing I would add to that would be if it were the Housing Authority or City Council's preference to change the policy so that live and work are equal, so that anyone who works in Glendale gets a preference, anyone who works or lives in Glendale gets a preference, but you don't get preference for both. If that were something the City Council or Housing Authority wanted to do, wanted to change that policy, it would have affected the speaker's application. And I think she admitted so. It would still been a lottery, and at the end of the day, been very fortunate to get one of the 8 units. But that's a policy decision for you.
And of course, if we increase decrease, like if we had live in Glendale and a work in Glendale, we would double the applicants, so it would be even more difficult for a lot of people to be chosen. In other words, it makes the chances even higher.
Yeah, to answer that, I would say you may not, that 7,600 number may not increase, but the number that you're going to actually dump into that role that you do will obviously increase, possibly 2,500 to 5,000.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Comments, Mayor?
Yes, questions. Where in that application process does it indicate that if you live and work in, I'm sure it does, I just want to understand so the public would be clear. So if you live and work in Glendale, you have a preference. Does it indicate anywhere in our application process or in our flyers that we take
I'm going from memory. I hadn't prepared for this, but I believe the flyer says live and work versus live or work. I can double check that and get back to you.
Now, the other question is, you mentioned there are 2,500 applications that live and work in Glendale, and only 250 are polled to participate in the lottery. How do we choose who those 250 are?
Oh, no. So 2,500 will go into the lottery. We will poll randomly 250.
Okay, so,
And of those 250, we'll start with the lowest number and income qualify or not income qualify the individual, and just kind of work it until all 8 units are.
so all 2,500 people will be participating, and 250 names will be pulled out of, 10% will be chosen by the way of lottery, and then you go through the applications and choose 8. Is it 8
Yes,
units?
8. That's exactly right.
I just want to be clear. So from the beginning, we didn't say you have to live and work in Glendale, right? So people they came forward, and then since you had so many applications, you concentrated on those who are living in Glendale.
Okay,
right?
we
And
said,
working.
yeah, I understand the question. No, we said from the very beginning that living in Glendale and working in Glendale would give you a preference.
Oh, it says.
We've said that, we said that from the beginning. That never changed. What we
On
didn't,
the flyer?
yes, but what we did not say was somebody who didn't live in Glendale or didn't work in Glendale or neither wasn't qualified to apply. It's just that we don't know ahead of time how many applicants with both preferences are going to apply.
So because we had too many applications, you limited to working and living in Glendale.
In terms of the names, or rather numbers that will go into the lottery bin and be pulled, yes. Yes.
So,
Mr. Snani?
thank you, Madam Chair. So I'm wondering if there's a disconnect between what the lady's addressing as a problem and what we're hearing. Was the announcement clear that live and work was more of a preference than live or work?
That's something, I thought it was, but it's something I would like to read the materials to see how clear that was, that you would, somebody that lived and worked would have a better shot at
Right.
somebody who just lived or just worked.
Right. I mean, this whole live and work, live or work issue is something that this authority has gone over multiple times on multiple occasions, and we have been the ones who've been insistent on giving a preference for those individuals that live and work in Glendale because of the atrocious numbers. I mean, atrocious in terms of the relative number of applicants versus units available. So we've used that as a way of limiting the pool. So I don't think it's anything that staff's done wrong. It's just that when we put these things out there, the announcements, I think we have to create a reasonable expectation in the applicants as to what their odds are, what their chances are, and what the system is, what the process is. I think that's the
Okay.
problem, if I understand it correctly. If they knew that work and live is going to have a preferential status over work or live, then I think the expectation would be in accordance with that.
I agree with you, and that's why I want to look at the material and see if that was, in my opinion, clear, and if it wasn't clear enough, certainly the next time we'll make it more clear.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Fortney.
Mr. Fortney, I believe that Ms. Hayes is back there, and she has some information, so may I suggest that you speak with her and look at her flyer, and if indeed it isn't indicated that that work and live in Glendale would give you a kind of a leg up, that you might discuss it with her and correct that in the next...
I will do that. I'll look at the flyer, but I do want to look at some other materials, such as the ads that we put in the papers, things of that sort. Something a little more comprehensive than just one single source.
Appreciate that, okay, because we don't want to have that kind of discomfort out there that we're changing things in midstream, because then it looks like we're not being fair, and I think indeed we are trying to be as fair as possible.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank
Very
you,
well.
thank you.
Madam Chair, the lottery will take place this Thursday, April 5th, in the morning at 9 a.m. in the council chambers here, and it will be televised.
Great, okay, thank you very much. And what's our next item?
Next item on the agenda is the business agenda. It is at 6A is Director of Community Development regarding Professional Services Agreement, PSA. Change order for legal services in support of affordable housing activities for the remainder of the contract term. 6A1 is motion approving change order with Kane Ballmer Berkman in the amount of $70,000 for a new not to exceed contract total of $170,000. 2 is Housing Authority resolution appropriating $70,000.
Thank you. Is that Ms. Spears, Mr. Lanzafame?
We'll go to Peter Zovac,
Peter
who can
Zovac,
give you a
okay.
brief update.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the Housing Authority, as the city clerk mentioned, this is staff seeking approval of a change order to the professional services agreement with Kane, Ballmer, and Berkman, KBB. They provide legal services to the Housing Authority on its affordable housing projects and programs. Those are legal services that complement and work with the legal advice that we are given through our city attorney's office. They are just completed the first year of a 2-year contract. We're seeking to add $70,000 for the second year to that contract. An interesting note is that of that $70,000, $35,000 is actually revenue that's been generated from the developers of the 5th and Sonora project. Within that project and through the negotiations, housing staff was able to secure a reimbursement from the developer of up to $35,000 for our legal services and costs that we incurred. So that $35,000, half of what we are requesting today, is actually coming from a outside source as a reimbursement. Even though it's a reimbursement for services that we incur, we can't simply put it back into the contract. We have to seek the permission of the Housing Authority. The other $35,000 slated for that total appropriation is coming from affordable housing funds. These are non-general funds, funds that only can be used for affordable housing purposes. And the Kane Ballmer Berkman, now that the financing event is completed at 5th and Sonora, and they'll be starting construction in the next 30 days, we anticipate any future legal services to be related more to the 2 Habitat for Humanity projects, the Chestnut project that has been winding down, the Habitat for Humanity Lomita project that is winding up, and any new proposal that we're able to identify for the Housing Authority moving forward.
Any comments, questions?
I'll move the item.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Authority members Agajanian,
Yes.
Garcia,
Yes.
Garpetian,
Yes.
Najarian,
Yes.
Brazilian,
Yes.
Sinanian,
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes. Next item.
B is Director of Community Development regarding approval of the Section 8 Public Housing Agency Annual Plan for fiscal year 2018-19 and the proposed Section 8 Administrative Plan Resolution adopting and authorizing submission of Public Housing Agency Annual Plan for fiscal year 2018-19. And 2 is motion approving the proposed Section 8 Administrative Plan for the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Thank you. Mr. Zovac? Yes?
Sure, we can do that.
Just a quick note before I turn it over. This item is going to be presented by housing staffers Veronica Velarde, who will be speaking from the podium here, and then Ann Bockenkamp as well. They both worked on this project. There are 2 items that are up for your consideration, and as mentioned, the first item is the Section 8 Annual Plan. It's a document that you have considered and approved annually every year, and this is just this year's filing that we provide. And what it is a snapshot of the Section 8 program and notification to HUD about what is going on with it here as it relates to operations in Glendale. Because we're a high performer, we are allowed to submit a streamlined version, and we have been for years, of that annual plan. The second component that you're going to be considering today are proposed changes to the Section 8 Administrative Plan. That's kind of the operator's manual for the Section 8 program that staff refers to in their everyday implementation of the Section 8 program as it relates to internal operations and then interactions with the Section 8 client themselves. There are some, and you'll be hearing that the proposed changes to the administrative plan are broken down into 2 categories, and staff will be taking you through those, what we feel are the most important proposed changes to that. This item is a public hearing as it relates to the annual plan, so you are required to see if there's any public comment. These items have been presented to the Section 8 Resident Advisory Board, and they have all supported today's submittal. I think it's important to note we have not all staff members, not all were able to make it, but we do have some representatives of the housing staff here with you, and I think it's important just to recognize them. They're the reason why we're considered a high performer in the way that they implement the program. They're the reason why we're only required to submit just a few pages of documents when I think typically it'd be much bigger. And they've been very good in administering the program, doing it in a way that the Housing Authority would like to see it implemented. And let me just point out the people. We have Arthur Babolian, Nari Alexani, Martha Munguia, Irina Kasabian, Dan Valdez, Arpia Kamakchian, Edgar Akopian. We have others at the office that couldn't be here as well, about a staff of 20 that implement the Section 8 program.
Thank you.
So with
Thank you. I just want to make sure, Mr. Garcia, do I need to open the public hearing? Yes, so I'll open the public hearing. Go ahead, Peter.
So with that, I'll ask Veronica Velarde and Ann to start the presentation.
Good afternoon, Housing Authority Chairperson Devine, Housing Authority members and staff. My name is Veronica Velarde. I am a housing analyst in the Housing Division. As Peter said, today we're holding a public hearing for two items, the Section 8 PHA Annual Plan for fiscal year 2018-2019 and the proposed changes to the Section 8 Administrative Plan. Since our admin plan is well over 500 pages, we have a brief PowerPoint presentation. We have also provided Housing Authority with a chart listing those significant changes, and we'll proceed with our brief PowerPoint. Okay, the Section 8 Administrative Plan is a policy and procedure guide for the Section 8 program. The last major update to the plan was done in 2011, and since 2011, HUD has passed the following four major regulations. The first is the Housing Opportunity Through Modernization Act of 2016, also known as HOTMA, the Housing Choice Voucher Program, streamlining the portability process of 2015, Violence Against Women Reauthorization Act of 2013, also known as VAWA, and a 2016 HUD Office of General Counsel guidance on disparate impact. Now, the majority of the proposed changes are based on these regulations, which have resulted in 50 significant changes. And we have organized them into two categories for your review. These changes fall into two categories: regulatory updates and discretionary updates. Regulatory updates are mandated by HUD and must be revised, and we have a total of 36 major updates. These updates clarify and increase fair housing and due process rights for participants and applicants, and also clarifies the portability process between PHAs. The discretionary updates permitted by HUD allow a PHA to tailor a policy to the needs of the agency, and we have 14 of those discretionary updates. So what is a regulatory change? Regulatory changes are mandated by HUD and must be made by our agency. We must adopt these changes. These changes do four things. First, they incorporate Violence Against Women Act throughout the plan, and it results in notices and rights to protection. Two, it streamlines portability for participants between PHAs. Three, it restricts and clarifies the use of criminal history of participants and applicants for eligibility and termination decisions. And finally, it identifies major program documents that must be made available in different languages. So what is a discretionary change? Discretionary changes give the PHA the ability to tailor a policy to its own specific needs. It offers clarification when a policy is vague or confusing. It allows a policy to be streamlined for convenience to participants and applicants and administrative efficiency. There are a total of 14 discretionary changes, but we want to focus on four that we feel will have the most impact on participants. And the four major discretionary changes are listed here. Two are under streamlining, and they include annual and biannual HQS inspections and streamlined annual reexaminations for fixed income participants. And 2, clarify policy regarding regular contribution or gifts and changes in the family household composition. We'll go and explain what these 4 major discretionary changes are. The first is regular contribution or gifts. Our agency is clarifying how irregular contribution or gifts are processed and calculated. The new changes allow for self-certification for family support, but staff will also continue to compare income, expenses, and document. These changes no longer require complex third-party documentation and prorated calculation, and this mainly affects the use of third-party vehicles and the use of third-party credit cards.
So typically, we do an income review for every family in the Section 8 program each year. One component of the review is to look at regular, ongoing contributions from others outside the family to support the Section 8 family. These are considered gifts or family support and count as income. We're proposing 2 changes, as Veronica said. The first has to do with cars. If a Section 8 family uses someone else's car, it is considered income currently under our program, and we convert that use to a dollar calculation through a formula that relies on documents provided by the person who owns the car. However, it's complex, it's very difficult to collect those documents, takes a lot of time, and we find that the dollar amount calculated typically is a very small amount that rarely makes a significant change in the person's income and rarely makes a significant amount of change in the amount of rental assistance that they qualify for. So we're proposing at this time to drop the consideration of the use of a car owned by someone outside the family as a source of income. A second change has to do with credit cards. If a Section 8 family tells us they are paying for their family expenses by using someone else's credit card, we will require them to provide a certification of family support from the person who owns the credit card. With the changes proposed, we're not going to require the third party to submit any credit card statements, and we will no longer prorate those charges on that third-party card in a percentage to the Section 8 family. So we're relying on self-certification as we review income and expenses to explain the family's financial situation. Both of these changes clarify our requirements and simplify the collection of documents.
And if I want to add, you listed 3 reasons why we're doing this, and one was to simplify the process for the Section 8 participants, and that's exactly what this is doing.
Right.
Thank you. We move on to the next change, which is changes in family and household composition. Our agency is proposing changes in who may be added to a household. Currently, we have no restrictions on who may be added to a voucher. We are proposing stricter rules and restricting household additions to only minor children and spouses. And minor children or any children added through birth, adoption, or court order, and spouses, anyone added through marriage or domestic partnership. We move on to the next change, which is annual, biannual HQS inspections. This is a streamlining measure. Currently, every Section 8 unit under contract is inspected annually. The new change would allow those units that pass inspections to be inspected once every 24 months, but would still allow for annual inspections for those units that have failed previous inspections. We would also still provide special inspections and tenant requested inspections as needed. Moving on to streamlined annual reexamination. This is another streamlining measure. Currently, every participant comes in for an annual reexamination where their income and rent are reviewed annually. This new change applies only to those households with a fixed income of 90% or more. For example, those households who receive Social Security or SSI or a fixed pension. Those households with this type of fixed income are only required to come in once every 3 years. However, staff would still review their file annually for any applicable cost of living increases. Okay, in conclusion, we just want to summarize that the Section 8 Administrative Plan is a policy and procedure guide for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. The proposed update addresses both required regulatory and clarifying and streamlining discretionary updates. And the last major revision to this plan was done in 2011. In conclusion of this presentation, staff is recommending 2 actions. First, that the Housing Authority adopt a resolution authorizing the submission of the Section 8 Public Housing Agency Annual Plan for fiscal year 2018-2019 to HUD. And second, a motion to approve the proposed Section 8 Administrative Plan to HUD. That concludes our presentation. Peter, Ann, and myself are available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Perhaps, Ann, you can explain I find this one interesting, the changes in family household composition. And I know that this is to minimize the possibility of unfair applications and procedures due to unclear language, and it's made to prevent fraudulent applications. So can you kind of explain that particular change?
So I believe your question is about adding Section 8, adding household members to the Section 8 families?
Correct.
Okay. It's currently we have no restrictions except they go through family member additions. Those folks go through a background check and they do an income eligibility review for them as well as other document reviews. But there is no limitation on which person may be added to the household by category. So and we found a trend where more and more people are applying to be added to households. And particularly this year, in the first 3 months, we've had almost as many applications for additions as we did the entire 2017 calendar year. We find this may be a method of circumventing the use of or the ability to pull people off the waiting list. If this new family member is significantly younger than the Section 8 household member, it becomes a generational transfer of the voucher from one person to another, one family member to another, and is not really the intent, we believe, of the Section 8 program and the Section 8 wait list.
So as this continues to happen, then the people that are on the wait list keep waiting and waiting because there are no openings, because
That's
these
correct.
vouchers are generational and to stay with the family.
That's correct.
And so we're trying to prevent that from happening with this change.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Garpetti.
Yes, we were, thank you, Madam Chair. We were briefed on this item and on this entire presentation, and that was one of my questions. And I asked for a report, and you emailed it to me. I don't have it here in front of me. Do you have those numbers?
We do have those numbers. It's on a slide here.
So we had.
Okay, so in 2016, that's what I was going to. 2016, we had 45 applications, 20 approved. In 2014, the number of applications dropped by almost half. But
That's correct.
so in 2018, we already have 18 applications. Is that what you're referring to? In last 3 months,
Yes.
the numbers went up. I don't have a problem with this change for this year, but I think we need to look into it for next year and see if there is not a huge difference or a big increase in the applications. I think sometimes we try to do the right thing, and some people, because of the wrongdoings of some people, the average Joes are getting hurt as well. So they're being punished in a way. So I wanna come back next year and review these applications and see if their numbers are not really increased. Maybe we can reverse this and allow people to add the right people to their Section 8 voucher.
I think a problem we may run into with that is if we tell people that only we're now limiting the applications, we will likely get fewer applications. So, I don't know that it'll be exactly comparable. We could perhaps track requests, or, I mean, maybe not applications, but requests or inquiries as to adding family members. We could probably do that.
And you do a really strict kind of investigation, don't you, as to need and...
Yes,
Yeah.
it's really comprehensive.
Yes.
So, going back to this issue of the trend, whether there is a trend, clearly, if we implement this proposed change, there will be no applications next year. Someone may apply by mistake,
Right.
but otherwise they're not going to apply. So the results for next year will clearly show that no one applied. But there is really no trend. If you look at 2016 through today, there is a drop. Then there appears to be a beginning of an increase. The year's not over, so we don't know if this trend is going to hold for this year.
That's correct.
So perhaps what we need to do is wait this year out. And then, having said that, now it's going to get out there and everyone's going to apply all at the same time.
Let's mute this section.
Mute this section, delete it. But seriously, I mean, in all good faith, I'm not sure we can really call this a trend.
Okay, Mr. Agajanian first, and then Mr. Najarian.
I have a question. How many how many units you are offering to the Section 8 group every year, approximately? How many units we offer that they are vacated and you want to offer to the...
Well, last year we took approximately 21 people off the waiting list, but then we fell into what HUD calls shortfall, and they would not permit us to pull people off the waiting list for the remainder of the year through December of 2017. We are now working on reviewing applications and pulling people off the waiting list. There's about 8 people per month that we found generally are lost from our program each year and make vouchers available. But it is always a balancing act because we have a limited number of dollars.
No, total. How many you offered last year? How many Section 8?
21 last year.
21?
Well, we offered more, but 21 were able to lease up before we went into shortfall, and HUD stopped us from leasing more.
Mr. Agajani, I think you're talking about the number we're authorized of 1,500, 1,590.
No, I'm saying last year. How many new applications?
I see. For
You-
Section 8?
For
That we
Section
pulled
8?
off the list.
21? If
Through
it's
attrition.
21 off the list, but we don't have any new applications.
No.
okay.
Right.
But if we are offering 21, I think the system is not correct, that the family brings somebody else and then elderly dies and the other one stays, because those who are on the list, they never get the chance. I mean, this list, they're waiting like 20-some years, 20 years, from 2001, 16, how many years? 17 years they're waiting. So I think it should be such that the person who passes away, I'm sorry, that when they leave us, somebody else has to have a chance, not somebody, if I bring my family in there, they're only 45 years old or 35 years old, still they can occupy the Section 8 unit, right? If I bring 45 years old son of
Yes.
mine
Yes.
in there, and if I leave,
Then that
you
person-
guys, then that person will stay
the
there
right.
even though he's 35 or 45 years old.
Right.
So I think this system should stop. They should not invite their relatives and take away from those who waited for 17 years to get a unit.
And I think that's exactly what this is trying to do.
Right.
That's what it's trying to do. Veron, did you want to say something?
No, I just wanted to show the slide again about what this big change would have, what the impact would have, is it would only limit it to minor children and a spouse.
Mr. Najarian.
So the discussion of the trend is irrelevant in this case. What we're discussing is equity and fairness to those members of the community who have signed up for the Section 8 program in 2001, and those who have been waiting, with many of them with the 5 preference points, and have a person with perhaps one preference point, two preference points, jump them in line only because their relative had 5 preference, or, well, of course, they have to have 5 or more preference points and pass away. And if we're going to be fair about this program, we cannot let that happen. We have people who have been waiting in line, waiting in line, waiting in line. What do you tell them? That Grandma Smith passed away, but we're not going to give you her voucher because Smith Jr. Moved in to help her and attend to her, and he, although only having 2 preference points, is now ahead of you in line. So it's not the trend. The issue about the trend is this is sort of catching on, perhaps, as a way to jump the line in the Section 8 program. I think it's critical that we implement this and implement it as soon as possible. It's a loophole that is going against everything we've been telling the community to wait, don't worry, your time will come. The vouchers are moving forward at a certain rate every year. So I think we need to do this immediately.
And I'd like to add that every agency has different requirements as to who they allow to be added to their household. This proposed change is the more restrictive one. I know Hakola and Hakla have some restrictions also. But I'd like to also say that if a household where there's an elderly disabled person is in need of someone to come into their household and take care of them, they can apply under a reasonable accommodation and have a live-in aid. However, a live-in aid has no rights to the voucher, and once that head of household moves out or leaves the program, that live-in aid will not inherit the voucher.
Right, and other than having someone to be there to physically aid you, I don't think there's a moral argument for a person to just randomly add family members to their Section 8 voucher, given the long wait that we have for it.
Thank you. No other
question.
Okay, Mr.
You
Mayor.
mentioned there are average, excuse me, 8 to 10 people per month that are
8
eight
in
people
the
per month.
2017, yes.
So that means 8 vouchers?
8, yes, 8 out. There's 8 vouchers that are
So that's 96
withdrawn.
vouchers, which is
Yes,
almost
yes.
7% of our total 1,500
Yes.
vouchers. So what happens to those vouchers? Goes back to the people who are on the list, they will get those, or because of shortfall, we lose those?
We attempt, once we come out of shortfall, to as quickly as possible lease back up those numbers. It takes a while to do them off the wait list. We also absorb portable vouchers just to keep our numbers up, to have a shortfall measure protecting those numbers. I don't know if I'm clear about that. Let me say that again. So we...
In a plain English, what happens to those
Okay.
vouchers?
What happens to those vouchers is, within the limits of the dollars available, we work through the process of leasing up off the wait list, but also, because it was so long since we were able to lease up, we absorbed some of our portable vouchers simply to protect our numbers, to protect our number of vouchers so that HUD would not defund us.
Well, why are we absorbing our portable vouchers? Don't they have?
Just to get our numbers up so that in the future, we will be able to be funded for those. If we do not lease those up, we will lose them.
That's strange to me, because the portable vouchers, they have their own funding coming in. So if you have extra vouchers, why not move people from the list and give it to the people
And we
who
are moving
who
people from the list. It just takes a number of months to do that.
What Ann's describing is just a really interesting twist to the Section 8 program and how it operates. First and foremost, when we have turnover, we look to fill that turnover from the Section 8 waiting list.
Okay.
But if there comes a time where HUD is looking at our numbers and saying, look, your numbers are so low, we might be thinking of reducing your allocation. If something doesn't happen within the next few days, we mitigate that by looking at our portable program and say, well, wait a minute, and when we'll absorb a port or two to bring up our number until HUD is looking in some other direction, and then we continue to try and pull from the wait list. I'd say the best answer is that we, first and foremost, look to fill any vacancies through our Section 8 waiting list.
So
What we
what
then
hap-
try and do in dire emergencies is mitigate anything by this port process Ann was describing.
So when you observe our portable vouchers, what happens to their vouchers goes back to the agencies they came from?
Correct.
So they get those vouchers back, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not ideal. We'll only save it as a last-minute measure, only to protect ourselves.
Got it. All right, thank you, Madam Chair.
Welcome. Any other comments? Ms. Peraza?
So my question is about the addition of family member. So let's say mom and dad living with 3 kids, they have 2-bedroom apartment. Now the 4th child was born. What is going to happen? The bedroom size changes or what?
We allocate the voucher size based on the size of the family. If they hit that number where they're eligible for another bedroom, then we would increase the subsidy for that bedroom size, that larger bedroom size. They can go look for another apartment.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? No? Okay, first, well, I'd like to thank staff, all of you, 20 or so of you, for all the hard work that you've done on this. It's quite a volume, and we all appreciate that, the work that you've done. And I think that you've accomplished the goal to streamline and clarify your policies and procedures. You're simplifying the process for Section 8 participants, and you're minimizing the possibility, hopefully, of procedures which would kind of encourage fraud. So with that, do we have a motion on the two? We have 2 items. Can we take them both at the same time? All right.
I'd like to move item.
Oh, I'm sorry, close the public hearing, and then we'll take the motion.
I would like to move item 1 and 2. B1, B2.
B1, BA, and yes, 1 and 2. Was there a second?
Second.
Second.
Grazian?
Ms. Brazian, did you second?
Second?
Okay. Roll call, please.
Authority members Agajanian?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Garpetian?
Yes.
Najarian?
Yes.
Barazian?
Yes.
Sinanian?
Yes.
Chair Devine.
Yes. Next item.
Authority member or staff comments?
Any comments?
I have a
from
comment.
staff? Okay, Mr.
So, going hand in hand with this, probably the second most common comment that I receive after the general lack of housing and availability of Section 8 is this phantom phantom person in the department that is taking money, and he's up the chain. There's someone in the community that they pay money to, and that money is transferred to the person in the office, and magically the person who's paid the money gets a Section 8. We all know that that is false, and we have advertisements about that it's false, but there still is this pervasive belief in the community that if someone pays the right person, then they can get their Section 8. And I think it's important that, and sometimes it's not just limited to the Section 8 program. It extends into other permits and things through the city of Glendale. I think it's important that we redouble our efforts to make the public know that there is no way anything can be done through corruption and through bribery, especially in the Section 8 program, which is overseen by the federal government. So I don't know if you hear that sort of stuff, but I hear that all the time. It's like, oh, so-and-so, moved here from whatever country last year, and he paid the right person, and they're now living in a Section 8 house. Can't you do the same for me? And I'm like, what are you, who? I say, well, who is this person? And what is the connection? And then, that's when the thread sort of stops. But I think we need to continually remind the public that there is no way to jump aside from this little loophole that we're closing, to jump the line in Section 8 and do that by way of bribery or corruption or ill means. So,
Chair Devine,
Yes.
members of the Housing Authority, if I may, you're absolutely right, Mr. Najarian. I think it's important to have that information out there. But I also would recommend that if anybody does have any information that they believe that is pertinent and they'd like to share with the city of Glendale, for them to call my office at 818-548-4844, or call the city attorney's office at 818-548-2080. I remembered your number, Mr. Garcia, and bring forward any issues that they believe is somehow fraudulent. We do have an inspector who works for us as part of the Section 8 program, who does follow up on issues that come up regarding fraud. And if there is anything out there that folks know about, I urge them to come forward and give us that information so we can look into the matters. As you have said, that conversation has been out there for as long as I've been part of the city of Glendale, and as soon as you have that conversation, there are no names that are shared, and it kind of ends there.
I mean, it goes so far as the open lottery system, the actual drawing and all that. Well, I know if I pay the right person, my number's going to be picked. I'm like, what are you talking about? I mean, and people have been ripped off. That's the sad part of it. I mean, the general belief that there's corruption is bad, but the poor people that, with their limited means, actually pay these shysters who claim to be able to place them is really the heartbreaking part of it. So we just need to keep that up and keep those public service ads going. I know that's in several languages as well. So
we hear you on that, and when we see opportunities to provide additional information to the community, we follow up on that. I wanted to point out, about 7 months ago, we kind of did an overview of the lottery process and how it worked, and how moving forward applications are pulled next in line and all that. The PIO office thought that the presentation that day was of value. They actually generated about a 15-minute video that was translated into 3 languages that's on our website that really provides a comprehensive overview of the lottery process and how it works. And so we've referred to quite a few number of people to watch that video to understand it better, because it's not easy to explain per se. But I think the video and the suggestion by PIO, and we continue to work with them on any other opportunities that we see in putting information out to the community.
Mr. Zovek, is that on our website?
It
or
is.
is it something that's appropriate?
It is. It's in the housing webpage.
Housing webpage. The public can look
access
that up and
24/7, and in 3 different languages. They can watch this.
And to add to that, you're having the lottery televised this week. Did you say on Thursday?
On Thursday at 9 a.m.
At
in
9
City Council
a.m.
chambers.
So we encourage everyone to watch that and see that it is legitimate, it's fair, and again, if they want to report anyone that's offering them vouchers, trying to sell them a voucher, to please call 818-548-4844 and report that action. So do we have and hopefully we can kind of make a dent in that sort of activity that's going on in our community. Mr. Agajani, yeah, you may put that on your TV program.
I already spoke about this many times, and the lady who collected the money and she was hiding in a closet when police arrested her a few years ago. I don't know if you remember or not. There was a lady who collected money. I just have, once before I asked, is there any way that who is on the list so people, they know this is the person who is number 1 will get it, then number 2, there is privacy issue, other issues, but there should be somehow that they are sure that we are fair and this is not misused. So can you do something?
We talked about that when we provided that presentation about 7 months ago, and we discussed the fact that at any point in time, that list changes as people update their status. You issue, for one thing, there are privacy issues with listing names of people applying for a federal program. But if you were to get beyond that and be able to issue it one day, the next day it'll change, and it only creates confusion in the program. What we've done is, and what we stated in that report 7 months ago, is that we have controls in place so that not any one person has complete control of the waiting list and being able to move anyone forward without checks and measures to ensure that the next person receiving a voucher is the next person on the list at that moment.
Okay, I said this year ago, and you're right, and I still having problem. People, they see me and they ask again, is there any way you can explain how that system works?
Through the videos that we have on our housing webpage.
No, I
yes.
mean the list that you say constantly is
Through the
changing,
videos on
the
our housing
names
webpage.
going.
Yes.
So there should be somehow that somebody can come and look at it, or not to. I mean, there is.
Could he run that on his TV program through
Sure.
the computer? Why don't you do that?
No copyright infringement.
No copyright infringements. You can run that on your, and that would perhaps be very helpful.
I'm doing all the time, but still somehow the position changes, and the third person doesn't know why this person went number 4 or 5, and they were number 3, they went to number 7, and it creates.
Is that explained on the video? Yes? That if things change?
The whole complicated process of how it is changing, yes, is all explained in the video.
Okay.
If I can just add one thing, I realized when introducing the staff that were present might subject me to getting beat up when I go back to the office for those that couldn't make it. So if I could just announce their names too.
Sure, absolutely.
Lydia Becerra, Georgiana Martinez, Sipan Zadorian, Nick Nye, Felicia Harris, Carol Ross, Alice Azizian, Armina Gavorkian, and Adana Gazarian are the people that round out the Section 8, staff that round out the Section 8 housing program.
And we thank them all because they're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Very, very good job.
I have a comment. First of all, I want to thank you, each single one of you guys. You're doing a great job. Thank you for that. Then I have a question. Maybe I should ask Yasmin. Yasmin, for Wednesday's lottery drawing, is the
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah. Is it people allowed to come in and just have a seat in the chambers and to see how's that working? Because last time we did it, it was packed. So we're having the same this time.
So the council chambers will be open for the viewing public to feel free and come in and have a seat and watch the process, as well as it's televised. So if they're unable to come to City Hall, they're more than welcome to watch it on GTV6.
And again, that's Thursday at 9.
Thursday at 9 a.m.
9 a.m.
Yes.
And I'll be the first.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? I'd just like to, come on up, Mike. You can probably answer this question for me. Is there a date certain for groundbreaking on 5th and Sonora?
I believe it is May 10th.
May 10th?
Check that.
Okay.
I am checking my calendar. right now.
Wonderful. Okay.
Calendar, April. May. Yes, 9:30
9:30? May 10th. Great.
on Thursday,
Okay.
May 10th.
Exciting day. Okay.
And then as you requested, Chair Devine, I looked at the flyer. And again, I want to look at the other marketing material.
This is on Onyx.
On Onyx.
We're on
mhm.
Onyx, okay.
Yes, and to me, it's clear, but I would say too that it could be more clear. What it says is preference will be given to those who live and/or work in Glendale, which tells me if you live in Glendale, you're going to get preference over somebody who lives in Glendale versus works in Glendale. But those two will get a preference. But it could be, I mean, with a flyer, you're trying to cram a lot of information on a, limited space. It could read, those who live and work in Glendale will get the, the most preference. I mean, you could make this very, very clear. When I explained that to the applicant outside.
Ms. Hayes?
Yeah, she'd said, well, had it said that, I wouldn't have even applied. So you run the risk of that. If you run the risk of making it adamantly, just absolutely clear, if you don't live and work in Glendale, you don't have a shot.
Right.
Which we can't say. But that's how she interpreted it. I'm not saying others won't, but it could deter people from applying. So there's it's kind of two sides to that sword.
Right, yeah. Maybe you could say live and work, or live or work, make it two different sections so that it's clear that there are two separate buckets that these names go into. I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah, we could.
Okay, thank you for checking
Of
on
course.
that, and Ms. Hayes. Okay, and with that, next,
Move to adjourn? Second.
we are adjourned at 4:07. Thank you.